This conference will now be recorded.
Let me share my screen. Okay. So in previous class, we had discussed about the GitHub sign up, and also we had created one repository, one in private and another one is public type. So also we had seen what is the use case of public and what is the use case of private. Okay. Now let us see how to check in and check out the source code from your laptop to the GitHub account and from GitHub account to your laptop, vice versa. So this we can see it in today's class. There are some commands involved for check-in and checkout. We basically don't call check-in checkout. We have some technical keywords for that. So basically, push and pull. Push is for push keyword is used for storing your source code from your laptop to your GitHub account. That is called push. Pull event is called as when you want to download the source code from the GitHub account to your laptop. That is called pull. Okay. So basically, we'll be having two terms. One is push, another one is pull. Pull or clone. So we have another keyword called clone. I'll just explain the difference between clone and pull in the later time. Okay. So now let us see how to integrate this GitHub with our laptop. Okay, so you have to download one client called Git. So there is a integration tool for connecting to the GitHub from your laptop. Git will be available for different operating systems to download it. So if you are a Windows user, you have to download the Git for the Windows. And if you are a Mac, there are some commands will be used to configure it. And for the Mac user, they'll also get the binary file to install it. So based on your operating system types, you have to choose the downloading file and have to install it. So I think most of you guys having a Windows laptop. Is that right? So how
Yeah,
many are
Mitra.
having Mac or
Yes, sir.
Linux?
Yes.
Is anyone having Mac system or the Linux system? I think nobody, right? So for you guys, you have to download the mm, Git version for the Windows. So what you can do, I'll give you this link. I have to download this. Let me paste it in the chat. Give me a second. It's quite different. Okay. I shared the link in the chat. Use that link for downloading the this Git. Okay. So let me do one thing. I'll create one EC2 instance, Windows EC2 instance, and from there I'll show you how to use it from the Windows laptop. So currently I'm using Mac. So if I use my terminal to install and run the commands, you don't understand. If you are a Windows user, then I have to have the same operating system. So for that, what I'll do, just I'll create one EC2 instance. Give me 2 minutes. Meantime, you can download it. I'll just explain. The steps are very simple to install it. It doesn't involve complexity. So you can just click on next for every steps. That will be fine. Mm,
Mithun sir, I
have a question. The ls command which you guys use in Linux, it is not operable in Windows, right? Windows doesn't recognize ls as a command.
Correct, correct. So those are the Linux commands that won't work in the Windows. So Windows will be having a user interface, but Linux will not be having it. So what are all the commands available for Linux that may not work in the Windows? So only few commands will work, like uh,
Mhm.
basic commands like pwd, cwd, or something like that. Those kind of
Okay.
will work. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Did everyone download that file? Am I able to create it? Not, please bear with me for a moment. Why I'm creating this Windows machine is to make you understand better for the installation of a Git and configuration of a Git in the Windows laptop. Otherwise, I would have gone with a terminal level itself. But it will helps you when you are using. I mean, when you have the Windows operating system. So that's the reason I'm explaining all these things. So before that, I should have the Windows laptop. So for that sake, I'm creating an extensions, Windows extensions. It will be ready in 3 minutes. Don't worry on this part. So basically, I had to download this file to your Windows laptop, and I had to install it. So once you install it, uh, I'll explain you how to uh, integrate uh, from this Git to from your Git to the GitHub account. So those are basically command-based process. I'll keep explaining the commands one by one, and please note down the commands. The same commands will be used in the real time as well. So whenever you're working in the IT industry, the same kind of commands will be used for this kind of scenarios. I'll explain on the scenario based, so I don't want to take you into a theory part. I'll just explain how it will be used in the real time. So what are the things we have to follow? Okay, so I think it's ready. Something happened to this. It can provide me the public hostname. Something wrong. I should have this Windows machine before coming to class. Do you all know how to create EC2 instance and how to connect to the Windows EC2 instance? I think that has been covered by Mithun.
Yes, but
Okay. If you don't want to configure in your local laptop, you can also do the same thing. What you can do basically, you can uh, configure the Git in your Windows EC2 instance or any Linux EC2 instance and use it whenever you want to practice. That will also be fine. Let me create a new one. For this, I need all traffic. Just give all traffic. IP address only can be assigned to the instances, so it's only without disable just remove this network interface. Before that, let us do one thing. So yesterday in the previous class we had created two kind of projects, right? Or two kind of repositories. So one was created in the public visibility, and another one created in the uh, private visibility. So what happens when you go to the public, and what are all the disadvantages of going with the public? First of all, when you are working for the company or when you are working on something, so that code will be when you push the code into that public repository, the code will be easily stolen by anyone. Okay, so anyone can steal stole the uh, code easily. So that will be a major disadvantage of going with the public. When you go with the private, your code will be very secured. Nobody will get the access and nobody will be your code. So that is the advantage of going with the private. So there are some integration will be supported for both public and private. So there is no issue in that. But as a beginner, as a practitioner, then you if you want to use this repository as a public, then you can go. Otherwise, I always create the repositories in the private uh, visibility. So what happens when you are developing something or when you have some confidential data like username and password of any other VMs or any other systems, so that will be get visible to the public, so that they can try to access your systems or servers. So there will be a security concerns involved when you go with the public. So usually you get hacked when you go with the public. And sometimes you also update the AWS credentials or some other account details. So at the time the public uh, can easily get the credentials and they hack your accounts. So that will also be another issue. So for that sake, we'll always recommend to approach go with a private visibility. So when you go with a private visibility, nobody can uh, get view your code. So that's the one thing which you need to follow all the time. Even you are working for the company or for the practice, you always go with the private. So I'll explain how to uh, push or add the source code to this repository. So let us create one. I think we have already created, but again we can create one repository. So always you click on the plus mark. That is the best practice. So click on the new repository, and also there is an option called new. So when you click on this new, the same option will get. Basically, this will also be used for the creating a new repository. Either you can go with this option or you can also go with this option. Sometimes you may not get this option. So for that sake, this will you can make it as a best practice. So when you click on this plus button, you'll get these kind of options. You can also import the repositories. For example, have some other repositories, source code repositories. You can also clone the or download the repository to your GitHub account. That is also possible. So let us create one repository. Okay. So I'll create this bucket name as a DevOps batch file. So description, if you want, you can provide it. It's not mandatory. It's optional option. Then visibility, you always go with the private when you are working for the company, so that your mm, data will not get visible to anyone. So that is the thing. There is one option. So this is not mandatory, but uh, if you wish to go with this readme file, that is well and fine. If you don't want to go with this, you can also create the repository. But when you go with this repository, right, I mean, when you go with this option to create a repository, right, so we'll get the repository homepage as a empty uh, place. I mean empty window, you'll get it. So but when you didn't click on this readme file, you will get some commands. Let me show you. Last time we had already checked on this box, and we had seen one empty repository. So something like this. Let me show you. Yeah, something like this. Not this one. Yeah, something like this. So we don't have any other files in this source code, I mean source code repository, but though we have the only readme file in this source code, I mean in this repository. So when you don't go with the readme file selection, so what happens? Let's see. So I didn't select this readme file to be part of my repository. So just click on create. Let's see what happens. So you may see this kind of page. So don't get nervous, or don't be panic. So when you see this page, so your repository has been created, that's for sure. Because if you are getting these commands, that means it will ask you to integrate this repository to your local repository. So these are the commands which you need to follow to integrate with your local computer. So let us see now. I think it will be ready.
Hello.
Yes.
Uh, Sorry for the delay.
Okay. Okay. I just fine. Okay. No worries. I have covered few of the things. I just recap the things whatever we had discussed in the previous class.
Okay.
So let me connect. And also I'll show you how to integrate from your Linux machine as well. So in the real time, so what happens? You always, I mean, you never get the Windows all the time. So you also be familiar with the Linux operating system as well. So for that, how to install and integrate with the GitHub using the Git. Let us see uh, for the Windows first, then we can go for the Linux. Okay. So I have a Windows laptop right now. I have not installed the Git into my computer. So first step is to download the Git. Git is the client. Basically, it helps you to integrate from local repository to the GitHub. Oh, sorry. Okay. Download Git. First one you'll get it. So select the first search option and select your operating system. So I'll be going with the Windows now. So based on the computer your operating system type, so select which is 64 or 32 bit. So right now I'll be going with the 64 bit. So once it is downloaded, just double click. Okay, it has open multiple files. So we also call it as a git bash. So whatever we downloaded the git to your machine, that is also called it as a git bash. You can call git or git bash, anything should be fine. Let me close all these tabs. Okay, so once you open this file, it will ask you to proceed to install. So just click on next, 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 just click on next, 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 again next, next, done. So there is no complexity on installing this Git into your Windows laptop. So just keep pressing on the next button. Once it is installed, we can start integrating our GitHub repository to our local. There are two cases. Okay, let me click on finish. Okay, so I'll open my account here. There, yeah, anything should be fine. Let me close the browser. Okay. So if you type git, you will get the tool. You always go with the git bash. If you are interested to go with the CMD, that is also fine, but I suggest to go with this git bash. So basically you will get a Linux kind of experience, you will get it. So that's the reason you go with the git bash. So even if you don't want to open it from here, what you can do, you can go to your file explorer and go to specific directory. For example, if you want to open this git bash in the desktop directory, just you can right click here, go to your desktop file explorer and right click in this file explorer, and there is an option called git bash here. Just click on git bash here. So what happens when you open this git bash, basically it directs to this desktop directory path. So what happens, there is no effort to change the directory for desktop. So similarly, if you want to open it in the downloads directory, what you can do, you can go to downloads directory and just right click and click on the git bash here, so that automatically by default it will switch the directory to the downloads folder. So when you have some files to execute or files to operate with this within this directory, you go to that specific directory and right click and open the git bash, something like that. Okay, so this is how it it looks like. So when you install and configure the git bash in your Windows laptop, basically when you opens it, it looks like this. Okay, so let us see what are the cases we have. So first time, when you are dealing with a GitHub, there are two kind of possibilities. First thing is possibility of working on GitHub source code. Okay, so first scenario. Okay, First scenario is a new project. If it is a new project and you are the lead or you are the main person to deal with this. So at that time, what you can do, you can just create uh, repository in the GitHub, something like this. The step which we followed already, something like this, with the readme file or without readme file. That should be fine. So either way should be fine. So you can just create one repository in a private visibility. Okay, and the next step is, so you have the source code. You already have some source code in your laptop, and you want to push that into a GitHub account. So if that is the case, you already have some previous project sample code, and the same sample code will be used for the new project. So every time we cannot write the code from the scratch, right? So you always, what we do, we'll copy the code from the previous projects, and what we do, and we'll modify based on the requirement, and we'll just update to the GitHub. So if that is the case, what you can do, you can install the git bash into your local and connect to this GitHub account. So how to connect? There are some steps. So go to your git bash. So for example, let me create one folder here. Say it's a same name, DevOps. I'll give the same name, whatever I have created in the GitHub account, so that will not get confused. So always, whatever the project name you are going to deal, the same name should be created as your GitHub repository, so that you will easily identify what is this source code, or what is this source code repository is for. Okay. So for that sake, we will be having the same naming convention in both the site, from the local repository as well as in the uh, centralized repository. So what we do, we'll have the files under this folder. Let us imagine we have the project code here, something like, I'll just create some text files. Okay, test one. That's okay. Okay. This. Are you getting it, guys? Hello, I'm audible?
Yes, sir. You are creating the text files here to upload these, to push in these files into GitHub.
GitHub. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying now. So let us imagine we have the project folder called DevOps batch file. Under that, we have some application program files. Okay. So let us imagine we have the program files, something like this. So we don't have the actual program files, but let us imagine we have the program files in the this format. So I have opened the git bash into this directory. I'm into this directory. I have opened the git bash and directed to this directory path. Okay. So if you see here, desktop and DevOps batch file. So always you have to keep it. I mean, you have to uh, you know uh, be in the same project path. So if you are in the desktop and you are executing the git commands, then it won't help, or it won't affect to the project. So whenever you are working with a project on a specific project, you have to be in the same folder path. So then only your git commands will work and it will push to the centralized GitHub account. So currently I am inside this folder. Now let us run some basic commands. So these are the basic commands which require to integrate. So first thing is git. So when you type git, okay, it define basically it gives what all the possible commands which you can use it. Okay, that means Git is already installed. Okay, so second thing is you just type Git status. So basically, Git status command will define what is the status of your Git. Okay, so for your repository, so there is no Git initialized. Okay, so it says it's not a Git repository. A Git repository will be uh, available only when you have the .github folder. So for that, if you do ls-la, so it doesn't have any .git folder here. If you see, you don't have any .git folder. So how to create a .git folder, and what is that .git folder? Let me explain. So there is an option or command to create a .git folder. So let us run git init. When you run this command, basically what happens, it initializes the git in this repository. That means this repository is having the it has been converted as a source code repository for the git. Okay, so let us clear the screen. If you do ls-la, so few Linux commands will work in the git bash, not all the commands, but few Linux commands will also works in the Windows when you install this git bash. Okay, so now if you see, there is a .git folder has been created. What is this .git folder? Basically, it contains the configuration of the Git. So it has some configuration set of configuration files. So that will be available in this .git folder. So when you have this folder, that means your source code is having the Git installed in this path. Okay. So now, what is the next command? So I had to track these files. So whatever the files you want to push to the uh, centralized GitHub repository, so I had to track them. Track as in like I had to add to push. Okay, so basically I had to select what are the files to be pushed to the centralized GitHub repository. For that, what I'll do, I'll run one command. What is that command? Git space add space dot. So dot represents, basically it adds all the files. It tracks all the files. It basically it selects all the files to push to the GitHub. So also there is one more command. Instead of dot, you can also select individual file names. For example, if you wish to select and push this test only folder, so test1.txt folder, if you want to send it, and rest of the files you don't want to send it, just select the file name and add it. So basically what happens when you selectively uh, doing this files to push to a GitHub repository, basically you can select the individual file names and add it to the selection. So let me do this. For example, if I want to push only the test1 folder, I mean test1 text file to the GitHub. So for that, I have to provide the file name, get test1.txt. Done. So now you
Mithun,
can,
can you just zoom
okay,
the command prompt? It's not
one
much
second,
visible.
one sec. Okay. Hmm. Where are these options? Selection, no. Okay, color should be fine. And
Just check on window.
okay, let's see. Oh, current size. I don't know how to increase this.
Okay, then continue. That's fine.
Let me try to do this. Font, there is option. Ah, here I can increase. I choose the wrong one. Okay, this looks fine, I guess. Okay, it has some other. Is this fine? I think we
Yeah,
can go with the 20 size.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So now we have tracked these files. We can see the status. So what is the command to check the status? There is a command called git status. So you can see. So you can just run git space status. So basically it tells what are all the files is tracked and what are all the files are untracked. So you can see we have selected only this file that is called tracked. So this file is tracked and these two files are not tracked because we have not added to the repository to push. So that is how it defines. When you run the git add command, basically it select the file to push to the GitHub repository. So currently we have chosen this file to push. So these files are not selected. If you want to select all these, you can use the git space add space dot. So if you add, run this command, basically what happened, it will basically select all the files to track. Just let me enter this command, execute this and clear the screen. Check the status, git status. So now if you see, all the files are tracked and no files are untracked state. So all are in tracked state. So that means these are all these are the files which are selected for pushing to the GitHub. Okay. And also we have to save it. So there is a command called saving. So let me explain this. Git space commit -m and some command. So we have to tell what is the command for this saving the status. So I'll say first commit. Since I'm doing the first commit, right? I'm saying I'll say it as a just hit an enter. Okay, so I have to configure the basically it says it ask me to configure who you are. So basically you have to configure your account details. How to do that? So there are two commands it has been given. So git config -- global user.email id. Using your email id you have to configure, and also you also need to configure with your username. So let me do that first. So git git space config -global, and also these commands will get it in the GitHub account when you create a new repository. So it will says how to follow these commands. So basically it will ask you to git init from your side. We already ran this command, and also we need to add the execute the git add command. What are the files you want to track and push to the GitHub account? We already ran this. So we ran this command, but it didn't happen because we supposed to set up the account details for the first time. So first time when you install and configure the git in any of the systems, you had to configure your user credentials. So once you have done that, probably you are able to run the commit command. Until it won't allow you to run this command. After that you have to check the branch, which branch you are in, to check out or check in. So then I had to integrate with this GitHub URL from your local laptop and have to finally push it. So these are the commands you also get it in the repository when you create the repository without .readme file. So when you create with a readme file, you won't get these commands. When you create a repository without readme file, you will get all these commands. Okay. So now let us come back. Git config ---- global. What is that command? I missed it. Yeah, so you can just edit your email ID. Copy this. Okay, clear the screen, paste it, and edit all the details. So git space config ---- global and user.email id to configure your email id. So my email id is just configure it. So basically you have to tell the system who you are. Okay, so for that I have to give my email id shmithan5 @gmail. This email id I have given during the creation of my GitHub account. The same email id you have to use it. Should not use some different email id, otherwise you will get an error. shmithan5@gmail.com. Okay, this is my email id. Just click on enter. Done. The same way you have to also use the user configuration, username configuration. Instead of user.email, you have to use the user.name and provide the username. What is the username? You will get it here. So when you open your GitHub account, you'll be having the username. So this is my username, shmithan. So I'll use that to configure it, shmithan. So now we can run the commit command. Let's see what happens. So I'm running this git space commit -m first commit. So this is a command to save the added files. So basically, let us check what is the status of our git. So git status. So it has tracked, but no commit set. So no commit set means I have to save this file for the pushing. So what I'll do, I'll just run the commit command and let's see what happens. Run this command. Okay, so it clearly says 3 files changed. So these are all committed state. So let us run the git bash, git status again. Clear the screen. Just run git status. See, nothing to commit because you already committed. Okay, nothing to commit. Working tree clean. So that means you are good. So you are good to push these changes to the GitHub account, centralized GitHub account. So for that, what you have to do, you have to also tell this repository which is your repository to integrate. So basically, I have created this repository for my DevOps batch by project in my local. So what I'll do, I have to clone this. Clone as in like I have to integrate. So I have to tell the local Git to integrate with this centralized GitHub repository. So for that, it will be having a specific URL for each repository. I have to use this and add it to the uh, local. So this is the command. Basically, I have to use this command git remote add origin and this URL. This URL is basically also you get it from here. Otherwise, you also get it here. So there are two kinds of URLs. One is HTTPS, another one is SSH. Anything should be fine. So when you want to communicate from your local laptop or any other system to the GitHub repository with HTTPS, then you can go with this HTTPS. Otherwise, you want to use the SSH method, you can also use the SSH method for the authentication purpose. Anything should be fine. So let me go with the HTTPS first, and later we'll also learn how to use the SSH. So both are same, but you have to configure the SSH in the account. So let me do this. Okay, I'll just copy this command and paste it. Basically what it is, git remote add. So basically I'm adding the remote source code repository saying like the changes will always go to this repository. So that is what I am trying to execute. So just click on enter, done. So it basically configured the this URL for this repository. So now what is the next step? So I had to tell which branch you are in. So basically to identify which branch, you had to run this command, git branch. If you type this command, it basically gives what are the branches available and which branch you are in. So branches are nothing but there is a concept called branching in the GitHub. Basically, what happens for every branch, it will be having its own changes. For example, I have a master branch as a default, so that will be having some changes. The same case, if you want to create another branch and modify something, that changes will not be the same as the master. So master is having some different content and other branch which you created is having another content. To have the different uh, content in two different branches, you can also create multiple branches. So for example, in the real time, what happens, multiple teams working on the same project, so for them we'll be creating a multiple branches. So as an example, let us imagine we have a four environments: development, QA or test, and also we have the stage and production. Let us imagine we have four kind of environments in the real time. So for that, what we do, we'll create one branch for the development. So let them work on the development, and second branch will be created with respect to QA. So QA team will have their own content to add up into the GitHub account. So for them, we'll be creating a QA or test branch. So other branch will be production or the pre-prod. So we may have pre-prod or we directly have the production. It depends from one organization to another organization. Ideally, we'll be having four kind of environments: dev, QA, stage, and prod. So these are the four environments we'll be having it in most of the organization. So likewise, for each environment, we'll be creating a branches so that the code will not get uh, uh, impacted for each environment. So if you have the environment to deploy, so you can use the respective with respect to the uh, branches. For example, if you want to deploy the code into the development branch, you can have the code into the development branch and you can deploy that code into the dev environment, and you can test it and you can release to the master, I mean sorry, to the QA or test environment, and keep upgrade the code to the from one branch to another branch, and finally it will go to the master branch and it will be deployed to the production. So there are some strategies or there is a concept called branching strategies, so that will be used uh, for deployment purpose. So don't get into that level now. So let us understand what are all the branches. Branches are used for having the uh, uh, application code for different purposes. For example, if you want to work on the feature request, you can create your own branch and modify the master code and can test it. So until you add that code into the master branch, it will be remains in the different branch and it will not impact to the master branch code. So let me show you that how it works. Okay, let us see. Currently I'm in the master. Okay, so that's fine. So it should be main. Earlier it was having a master branch. Now they have named to main as a default branch. Earlier it was having a master branch as the default one. So now it has been named to main. Okay, so let us create one main branch. Okay, for creating a new branch, we can use this command: git branch, and the branch name. Git checkout. There are two commands: git checkout -b and the branch name. Otherwise, you can just call git branch and the branch name. For example, if you want to create a main branch, then you can use this. So now we can list out how many branches are there in this repository. Git space branch. So you can See, there are two branches. So one as a main, another one is a master. So what is the star and green? So green and star represents you are in the master branch. So similarly, if you want to switch to the main branch, there is a command git space checkout. So if you run this command, it will be switched to the main branch. Now you can check the status git branch. See, earlier it was in master, now it is in the main. So we have switched from master to main branch. So wherever you are wherever the branch you are in, you can just switch to any branch. Just you can use this command git checkout the branch name. So basically what happens, it will switch to the specified branch name. Okay, so I have ran this command and it switched to the main branch. So now it will be green state and also it shows star. So basically it says you are in this branch, so that represents current branch. Okay, so let us clean this. Now what is the next step? So we have added or tracked the files and committed the files, and also we have added the source code repository URL to our local repository, and also we had created a branch. And what is the next step? So I had to basically push this code to the origin, to the centralized GitHub repository. So for that there is a command git push origin main. So git push is the command to push the source code from your local to the centralized GitHub repository, and origin represents the centralized GitHub, and main represents the branch name. So if you are making a change for main branch and you are pushing the code to the main branch, then you can use this branch. You have to be in the same branch and you have to use the same branch while executing this command. So currently I'm in the main branch and I'm using the branch to push. Okay, then only it will push the changes to the GitHub repository. So if you are in a development branch and if you are trying to push to the main branch, it won't work. So basically you will get an error because you are already in a dev branch and that changes are not allowed to push to the main branch or some other branch, something like that. So be careful when you are in the main branch or in the master branch, you always use the same branch to push to the change to the same branch in the GitHub. Okay, so currently I'm in the main, that's the reason I'm pushing the change to the main branch. Okay, let's execute this. Okay, it has given the pop-up. It will ask you to sign in. So basically you have to sign into the GitHub. Okay, so just click on the sign in button. It will open. So provide your username or email ID to login. SH Mithun, and password is whatever the password I have given. It has sent one verification code to my device. Just authenticate it. So are you getting it, guys? Let me know if you have any doubts or questions.
Hi Mithun, I'm using a Mac. Can you show me how to use that in Mac also?
The same steps, whatever I have used, you
No,
can
I
use.
got it, all the points.
Okay.
So okay. So I'm talking about the starting stage. When you created the EC2 and all, right?
Yeah. Let me complete this and we'll come back to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Authorize
Yeah.
Git. Okay. Once you authorized it, the code will push from your local branch to the centralized GitHub repository. You can see here the data has been transferred from your local repository to the origin new branch called main branch. So now go back to your centralized GitHub repository and just click on refresh. So just I'll be clicking on this refresh button. So see here. So you have these files from your local to the centralized GitHub repository. And also you can see the commit ID. So there is a commit. So whatever you had given the comment, that will comes here. I had given the first commit as the comment in the saving or committing the files. So and along with that, it will be having some decimal, I mean hexadecimal ID. So basically, it will be used for uh, getting, I mean, tracking the files. Basically, it's kind of a history. So basically, it tells what I have done for this commit. So if you open this, you can see what are the changes you have made for this commit. So currently, I have freshly moved these files from my local to the centralized GitHub repository. That's the reason it says green status as a plus. So that means newly added these files. Okay. There are two options. You can use split or unfilled, sorry, unified state. So here you can see these are the new files added to the repository. The same way, what I'll do, I'll just modify the content in any other file. So for example, if I do ls, I have three files, right? So I'll add some content to this file. So what I'll do, open this file, hello. So this is the content I am adding to this file. So just save it. Okay. And now you can check the status, git status. It says one file is untracked. So let me clear the screen. I think so. Just run the git status. See, it is saying one file is tracked because untracked. So the change has been made, but this is not uh, tracked and committed. So for that, what you have to do, you have to follow the same steps. For tracking the files, you have to use the git add. If you use the dot space dot, it will be tracking all the files. If you want to specifically tag the specific files, you can use the names of that file. So for example, if you want to track only this file, you have to use the file name. Let me use this. Okay. Git add the file name. Okay, enter. So now check the status, git status. So it has been tracked, but it had to be committed. So it is saying it's not committed. So for that, what you have to do, you have to run the commit command, git space commit -m. So in the message, you can pass added content. You can give any message. That's not mandatory. Now check the status. It will say nothing to commit and working to clean. So that means you are committed. But what is the next step? You have to push it, right? You have to push it. Git push origin and the branch name. So I am in the main branch. So I have to use the main branch name. What is this? Git push. Okay. The spelling is wrong. That's the reason. Git push origin master. Sorry, main. Done. So what happens? It will push the changes to the centralized GitHub repository. Now come back to this repository again. So also you can see there are two commits. And also see the timings. So it was committed 16 minutes ago, and this was 1 minute ago. So you can see here what are the changes in this commit. So it's kind of history. You can see it's something like this. So we have only modified this test1.txt file. That's the reason it is showing only this file has been changed. And also you can see there is a green shade and there is a content added in the green color. So that means this is the content which is added to this file and the. So you got this right? Any questions on this? Any questions so far?
No, Mithun.
Okay. Hope you understand all the steps.
Yeah,
I'll
Mithun.
yeah, I'll keep elaborating the steps in the upcoming classes. But just understand the flow. This is one flow. the one which I mentioned, right? You have the source code in your local repository and you want to push that into the centralized GitHub repository. If that is the case, you have to follow these steps. So there is another way, like you have the existing project and you add it to the existing project team, and you want to contribute to the project. So what I have to do? So I had to clone that repository that is already available in the GitHub repository. I had to download that repository and have to work on. So you should not directly download as we do for the downloading other softwares for our computers. So this is having some other steps. So I had to clone that repository. There is a concept called clone. So clone is used for downloading the repository from the centralized GitHub repository to your local repository. That I'll explain in the next class. Okay, but so far, whatever I have explained, I think it makes sense to everyone. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. And somebody is asking how to operate in the Mac terminal, right? So for that, it is very simple. Open your terminal. Okay. So let us say this is my Mac terminal, and basically I had to install the Git for the Mac. So there is a binary file. I think hope you have already installed this binary to your Mac. Okay. So I have to download it. If you have not done that, you have to download and install it. So git download. So download there is a DMG file will be downloaded for the Mac. So you can use this, and otherwise you have to use the command. Yeah, I think you have the commands to install it. So you can use this brew command to install it. Brew has to be configured. If you don't have configured the homebrew, you have to configure the homebrew as well. Did you configure the homebrew?
Mithun, I've done all these things. It's working.
Oh, okay, awesome. So this is pretty straightforward, but installation steps will be different for each operating system. So once you install and configure,
Yeah, I've done it already. ಹೋಯ್ತಲ್ಲ.
Mithun sir? Hello?
Sorry guys, I got disconnected. Think I did connect my charger to the laptop. Okay. Okay. Hope everyone understand the steps. I guess. If you have any questions, please ask your questions, or if you have any doubts, we can discuss. Otherwise, we can close the session for the day and we can connect tomorrow.
Sir, have you recorded today's session, sir? Have you
Yeah. I
clicked
have
on?
recorded.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah, stop recording.